Good morning, everyone. This is Jeff with Walk and Talk with Jeff. Thanks for joining me this morning on my walk. I wanted to tell you about a fight that I was involved in years ago, back when I was a sergeant at the prison that I worked at. It was a full-scale fight with about 25 or 30 inmates involved. And to start at the beginning of this, I want to tell you about a captain that I went to the academy, was teaching one of my classes. In that class, this captain told everyone in the class, he said, there's going to be in your lifetime in corrections. Of course, I was 19 years old. I had a long lifetime ahead of me. He said, in your lifetime in corrections, you are going to have at least 10 oh crap moments. Well, he was right. For me, it was probably 10 plus oh crap moments. But this one in particular was one of my biggest ones. And I'll just lay the setting for you real fast. It was one of our problem housing units that was getting ready to go to yard, so we always had extra security on the yard anyway. For some reason, this particular day, we were a little short-staffed. I was a sergeant. I was going to be working the yard anyway. We were on the sidewalks whenever they were releasing the inmates from the units to go to the yard. Well, on the way to the yard, I kept noticing that there was a few inmates bickering. You know, they were arguing. That's nothing new in prison. But sometimes whenever you got a little experience under your belt, you know when the bickering is major, and you know when they're just bickering and it's a minor deal. I could tell right off that this was a major deal. I could tell it had to do with gangs. I knew that it had to do with 3 or 4 on each gang. And what they were arguing about, what I gathered as I followed them on out to the yard, they were arguing who was going to play softball on a softball field that day. Well, the way that always worked was they kind of worked that out themselves in the unit when they came out, who played who and the whole thing. Of course, it was completely dominated by your prison gangs of who played and who sat out and who actually got to get on the field at all. Well, when I got down there, another inmate, of course, you know, there's snitches everywhere. And in prison snitches are your best. Guy kind of walked up behind me and said, watch yourself, Sarge. He said, there's some big stuff going on. And I tried to catch him to see what was going on. He kind of just walked off real fast. Well, I noticed that not only was there 2 gangs involved, there was 3. One gang was wanting to play one gang, the other gangs wanted to play the other gang, and timing just wasn't working out right for them. And as usual, they couldn't work it out. So when they got out on the yard, I had the keys to the box. Well, the box was where they kept all the softball supplies. The bats, the softballs, the bases, the whole bit. So I was unlocking the box, and they were all kind of seemed like they had stopped arguing a little bit, and they was all kind of just separating a little bit. So I really didn't think much of it. I unlocked the box. Me and another officer was down there. I unlocked the box. All of a sudden, this one group stormed the box, grabbed all the bats, grabbed the softball, the bases, threw them out on the field, but held the bats. The other 2 groups decided that wasn't going to work. You're not going to threaten us with a ball bat. Well, I'm standing right in the middle of this, and this thing exploded right on top of me. So when people tell you things like, well, you could have got out of that, you could have walked away from that, you could have done something. Well, that's not always true. Sometimes things bust out right around you that you can't control, you can't fix, and you can't back it up. It's like my doctor told me, that carpet's already been laid. So these guys all started arguing. Next thing you knew, it really got intense. I was trying to get on the outer perimeter of this group of humanity. Like I said, there was probably 25 or 30 inmates. And they were all screaming, hollering at each other, and using a lot of bad language. I knew that this wasn't going to be good. I couldn't get out of the beginning of the fight. All of a sudden, one of the inmates hit another inmate with a bat, dropped him to his knees. He fell into the dust and he was out. Another inmate tried to grab the guy with a bat, and then it was on. there was, oh, I don't know, probably 15 inmates fighting over the one bat. The other 15 were all fighting each other. And like I said, there was 3 different mobs, so it was a scene. Well, as I grabbed the guy that was in front of me, who actually was trying to swing the bat at another guy, I grabbed him. My plan was, of course, you know how plans go. It's all well and good to get punched in the nose, and then you have to come up with a new plan. Well, I grabbed this guy and I thought I'll drag him out, the guy with the bat. I'll try to hang on to him until staff gets there. And the tower was aware of the situation, but as he said later in the reports, he didn't want to shoot because he didn't want to shoot me, which I was grateful for that. But sometimes I wonder if, you know, maybe he could have shot maybe all a little off to the left of the group. I don't know. You don't know what's going through a guy's mind when he's in the tower. But anyway, my plan was to drag this guy out of the group. So I grab him and I'm pulling him out, and the next thing I know, I feel this terrific pain across my shoulder. And I look, and a guy was swinging a bat at the guy who had the bat that I was trying to get out of the group. Caught me across my shoulder, dropped me to my knees. I was in pretty much a lot of pain, but I knew right then and there that I could not go down in the dirt because they would have stomped me to death. So what I done was stood back up. But before I did, I'll tell you this, before I did, someone, never did find out who, kicked me in the small of my back. And really that was my biggest injury. The ball bat hurt. I didn't do a lot of damage. It definitely dropped me to my knees, and I did see stars. But the kick to the back was the worst. So I stand up and I try to start pulling these guys. I still got my guy. And I'm trying to pull this guy out of the group, and I'm telling him, I said, come on, man, you got to get out of here. Cooperate. He pulls away from me, turns around and faces me, and I thought, well, here we go. He's going to hit me with his bat. He says, Sarge, get out of here. He said, I don't want you to get hurt. I thought, well, you know, that's noble, but I couldn't do that. I had to stay down there at least to witness, to see what was going on. About that time, the tower had called the major disturbance on the yard, and here come the troops. Had about 15-20 staff members come running down with handcuffs and mace, and finally got everyone separated and got them all face down in the dirt on the yard, and got everybody taken care of. And we were on institutional lockdown after that for probably about 3 weeks or so, while we shook all the cells down, and kind of just making a point that, you know, you just can't do that kind of stuff. So anyway, when it all got over with and everybody got all cuffed and I was still standing there, all of a sudden, it's like, I want to tell you about adrenaline. Adrenaline will make you rush through and do anything at any point. If you think your life's in danger, or if you think great bodily harm is in danger, your adrenaline kicks in. My adrenaline kept me up and kept me fighting and kept me trying to do the right thing, and actually kept me with a level head. I was able to identify about 15 or 20 of the inmates, because like I told you before, I'm a cell house guy. I knew most of them. I knew who their mob was and who the boss was and all that. So I was able to help internal affairs out tremendously. But adrenaline will and can keep you alive, I can tell you that. As soon as it was all over with, my back and my shoulders started throbbing. I was in so much pain, it was unbelievable. A couple officers helped me over to the healthcare unit, checked my blood pressure. My blood pressure was through the roof, sky high. They took me to the hospital where I was x-rayed and everything, and really, like I told you, my back was my worst injury. I had a huge bruise already formed on my back, and had a huge bruise formed across my shoulder. So I was off work for about a month. But I just want you to know, whenever you walk behind those walls or fences or gates of a prison or a penitentiary, things can break out in an instant. You may think that, you know, nothing's going to happen today. It seems all calm, and then all of a sudden, boom, it happens. And that's just the way corrections is. That's just the field. 90% of the time you sit around the cell house and you shoot the breeze with the, you know, with your guys that you're working with. You shoot the breeze with a few inmates and you go home and everything's good. But then there are those days like that one that it just exploded all around me and I couldn't get out of it. But anyway, I was okay when it all got said and done. I took my month off. I healed up pretty good, went back, and all was good. So anyway, thank you for listening to my story today. Thank you for walking with me on Walk and Talk with Jeff. And I'd like to ask you to subscribe and like my page, and even share it to someone if you know someone who'd be interested in this story. So have a terrific day, and I will talk to you later. I'm out.